since his folks found out he lives downtown. Nathan is a veteran of the Army or the Navy. Just don't ever call him on it, don't ever call him crazy. First thing he taught him was you never turn your back out on the street. The last thing he taught him was you never turn your back out on the street. When you live downtown, on the cold hard ground, since his folks found out he lives downtown. Found him on the steps out in front of St. Alphonsus. He was missing both his shoes with some.
Good morning. My name is Chris Konetsky, and I'm the publisher and executive editor of the Business Record. Just yesterday, our newsroom shared a Wall Street Journal article that identified Des Moines as one of 4 breakout mid-sized cities that are on the forefront of the recovery. The article highlighted that during the pandemic, we've drawn workers and businesses with our large and affordable homes, ample access to outdoor space, and less congestion. It also shared that our mix of high-tech jobs and old line industries, including manufacturing and finance, turned out to be more resistant to the downturn. But it also pointed out that our relative strength as a community, that we had relative strength as a community even before the pandemic. And I can attest, for the better part of the past 10 years, I've heard how this community is different. I've seen the data and heard both the outside experts and our own community leaders talk about how Des Moines was not affected as deeply during past economic downturns because of the unique binds between our business, nonprofit, and cultural leaders and the investments that they made during those downtimes. And that has never been on more display than in the past year. So first, I want to thank you. We know you've got a number of places that you could be this morning. You've chosen to be here with us today to learn, reflect, and hear from nine of this community's fantastic leaders about what it's going to take to help reset our economy and work toward community progress together as we emerge from a year of navigating a global pandemic. Your commitment to learning and connecting and finding opportunities to strengthen your business and community is the true difference here. It's the reason we're on the list of the breakout cities. It's the reason I'm so grateful for all of you here today and for our entire audience. And it's also why I'm so optimistic about the future. And of course, it's also thanks to our great corporate support like we have here today. This is our second Power Breakfast of the year, and we're so thankful to our sponsors, Bankers Trust, ACS, and BKD. It's our goal to help you do business better, and it's thanks to their support that we're able to do that and bring this program to you today. We're excited to hear from our speakers, but first, a few quick housekeeping things before we get started. If for some reason we lose our connection, just use the same link that you used to get here. We'll have things back up and running. You also have a couple different view options today. We're going to recommend that you're using the speaker view today. That's what I'll be using, as we'll have one speaker going at a time. This is also a webinar, and so you won't be able to see the audience, but you do have a few ways you can engage with our speakers and other folks in the audience. If you've got a specific question, you can use the Q&A feature to submit it. The panelists, if they can and have time, will do their best to try to respond to that when they're not speaking, of course. In addition, you can use the chat function to interact with the entire audience. And to get our speakers and you just a little bit warmed up today, please give them a big thank you for being here today. Our speakers, there's a lot on their back. They're going to put themselves out there and speak with us today. So give them a big thank you for being here today as well. Next, I'd like to introduce you to our company president, Susanna DeBacca. Susanna has been integral in helping position our company to navigate the economic ride that was 2020 and is working really hard to position us to continue having success in 2021 and beyond. In addition, through the DSM magazine side of our business, she's been leading efforts around infusing a variety of critical community issues into the magazine. Susanna, welcome.
Good morning, everybody. Thanks for getting up early and joining us to talk about the future of our community. Supporting our community, I think all of you know, is one of business publication corporations' priorities, and it's a topic that I care about very deeply as an Iowan. I think if we look back over the last year, it's just clear COVID has changed us all, and it's also changed our community. So I'm very much looking forward to looking forward. We're very grateful, as Chris said, to the many, many leaders in our community who not only worked tirelessly last year to address very critical issues and support our community, but who have also been at the same time looking ahead at how we use this very unique moment to reset, I think as our title, to be stronger and to be better in the future. As Chris mentioned, you'll see in all of our divisions here at BPC, Business Record, DSM, and IA, we are going to continue to address the future of our city and our state and all of our products with a goal of increasing awareness of these critical issues, of bringing people together around ideas, and fostering productive dialogue that we hope can lead to positive change in our community. Exactly what we're doing today. So thank you for being here. And now I would like to introduce our sponsors who have made this series possible and of course help keep this offering free so we can help as many businesses as possible. I'm pleased to introduce Bankers Trust, which since 1917 has been driven by an unwavering commitment to the success of customers and communities. Bankers Trust provides banking, lending, and wealth management for individuals, businesses, and institutions. And now I'd like to welcome Emily Abbas, who is the Chief Consumer Banking and Marketing Officer. Emily, good morning.
Good morning. On behalf of Bankers Trust, we're honored to continue our support of the Power Breakfast series. We also salute the other sponsors for investing in the Business Records initiatives to help us do business better. Also, thank you to today's panelists for their insights, and of course to everyone who is here today to take the time to learn more about how we can make community progress together. The pandemic and the extraordinary efforts of the 600 team members at Bankers Trust brought to mind a quote from Mary Kay Ash. "If you're good to your staff when things are going well, they'll rally when times go bad." And like many of your employees, the essential team members at Bankers Trust rallied, helping administer the Paycheck Protection Program, refinancing mortgages in parking lots, and helping customers through our branch drive-up lanes, while somehow also finding a way to increase referrals and add more new customers than in the prior year. On the surface, this is all good news, but the pandemic is impacting something more important than our bottom line. It was and is impacting the mental health and well-being of many of our team members. Given this challenge, like many of you, we've been providing information around combating burnout, encouraging employees to use their time off, and sharing our employee assistance program more than ever before. May is Mental Health Awareness Month. So in the spirit of improving mental health, I'd like to use the final 30 seconds of our sponsorship time this morning to have you join me in a fun self-care exercise that I first experienced about 15 years ago, and I've used it many times since. It's called the 16-second smile, and it's exactly that. Simply smiling for 16 seconds. Let's try it together right now. I'll time us and go. We made it. How do you feel? Besides maybe a little silly. Smiles are proven to boost your mood, increase happiness, and they are contagious. For those of you who love science like I do, you've now activated molecules in your brain called neuropeptides. They help fight stress, so we're even more ready for an enjoyable, stress-free power breakfast. I'll turn it back to Susanna, who still appears to be smiling.
Thank you, Emily. And I really like how you managed to sneak a bulldog in there, just sort of like a subliminal Drake alum message. Nice job. Thank you. And I'll keep smiling here because I'm very happy to introduce our next sponsor, ACS, a leading technology provider in the Midwest. ACS focuses on industry practices and efficiencies around business intelligence, data and analytics, cybersecurity, application development, Internet of Things, augmented reality, business continuity, connectivity, storage, virtualization, and server management. Whoa, that is a lot. I would like to welcome President and CEO Tony Foth, and I don't think he's got plackets, but I do know that he's got a branded mug somewhere back there, right?
I do.
Excellent.
There we go. Well, thank you. As Susanna mentioned, I'm Tony Foth, CEO of ACS. For over 41 years, ACS has been a locally owned technology solution provider, specializing in safely navigating businesses through today's complex world of technology, simply and efficiently. A technology compass, I guess you could say. The last year has been a challenging one, to say the least, for our team and our clients. Although it has been challenging navigating the workplace environment with a continued focus on our culture, we feel our team has excelled in the environments they've been put in since seems like everybody went home on March 16th, 2020. As our business has changed, so has our clients. From the initial shift of a nearly fully remote workforce to handling increased cybersecurity threats, which have been numerous over the past year, our clients have leaned on us now more than ever, not only for day-to-day support needs of their infrastructure, but also to guide them through technology to increase efficiencies through automation, reducing risk, increasing revenue, and decreasing costs. We have truly been blessed to live and work in such a supportive community and have engaged in community betterment through our philanthropic involvement and working to develop the next generation of leaders by working with our local schools and universities, as well as the Future Ready Iowa program. I'm excited to hear the perspectives of the leaders that are sharing their time and wisdom today. And thanks again for the opportunity to be here.
We're glad you could be here. I would also like to thank BKD, a national CPA and advisory firm whose Des Moines office provides audit, tax, and consulting services to clients across a wide array of industry. And I would like to welcome Jessica Richter, who is a partner at BKD. Jessica?
Thanks, Susanna. So I had to go find a prop since everyone else had a prop. I figured it was appropriate, but we have our little BKD moose here, and it's always about putting the moose on the table and having those tough conversations. So there's my prop for the morning. We want to thank the big team at the Business Record for everything you do to support the community. BKD is a newer sponsor to the Power Breakfast series, and I realize that we may be a new face to some of you as well. We have a long history of unmatched client service. For nearly 100 years, we've been committed to providing clients with sound financial advice and valuable resources. Things like PPP loans, and employee retention credits, all the things about forecasting, budgeting, and how to figure out how to navigate in the last 15 months have been top of mind for all of our professionals. Here in Des Moines, my focus is on the nonprofit industry, but we do serve Iowa clients across all of our major industries, and we're excited to continue growing alongside this incredible community. The last 15 months or so have been some of the most unusual times in our lives. My children frequently ask me, what's going to happen, Mom? And as a parent, you want to know the answers, but we're all experiencing something new and none of us really had those answers. So I told them I didn't know exactly what was going to happen, but as long as we stuck together, like we always had, things would be okay. I feel like the Des Moines community has done that. We as a community have stuck together. Organizations got very creative in ways to offer goods and services. Community leaders spoke out about topics that mattered, and we all learned new ways to do things. But the work isn't done. In fact, in many ways, the work is just beginning as we decipher what the new normal looks like. There are still people hurting and businesses trying to recover. I firmly believe that the Des Moines community has what it takes to do the work and continue moving forward. I look forward to hearing from some of our community's top leaders today on how they are recovering from 2020. I know that COVID had its challenges, and it is important to share advice and lessons learned. Equally, and maybe even more important, is also to share the successes that have been had during this time and how we can use those to move forward. Thanks again to the Business Record for letting us be a part of this great series.
Thanks so much, Jessica. Appreciate it. And thank you for your sponsorship. And thank you again to all of our sponsors for making today possible. I'm happy now to introduce you to our very talented newsroom leader, Emily Barsky. Emily is our relatively newly promoted editor of the Business Record. She's been with us for nearly 2 years and has really helped to elevate and transform our newsroom to lead us in our coverage throughout the course of the pandemic. Emily's going to be guiding the program and introducing each of our speakers today. So Emily, I think it's time. Put the moose on the table, put a smile on your face. Go ahead and kick things off.
Awesome. Well, good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us. Today's speakers have expertise in a variety of areas, and we did that, of course, on purpose because we know as business leaders, you're faced with many challenges and opportunities, especially in our current environment as we navigate the start of recovery from the coronavirus pandemic. We know in some ways that the pandemic has pointed out our strengths as a community, but we've also seen disparities that exist here magnified. So we've asked our speakers to share an idea about something that we can all do or think differently about as we continue moving our community forward. After we get through all of our speakers, we're going to try to get to some questions for the group at the end. And you can also feel free to drop questions for the speakers in the chat as they share their ideas so that you can engage, so that they can engage with you after they wrap up speaking. So let's go ahead and get started with our lineup. First, we have Almarty Abdallah, who is the Vice President of Family and Workforce Programs for Oak Ridge Neighborhood Services. Marty?
Good morning. Home ownership is an essential part of the American dream. Building long-term economical success begins with home ownership. But by examining our financial systems and lending options offered by financial institutions in our state, one can easily conclude that these lending options are neither accessible nor equitable for many of hardworking families. But while paying interest is a norm and a no-brainer for many Americans, what you may not know that many new Iowans are not able to engage in interest-based lending options in order to be in line or to satisfy religious obligations. This presents significant barriers to accessing home ownership, a dream of many. And one of the ways that we can retain talented young working families in our state. And by the way, these families are not asking for handouts. These families are neither asking for handouts nor against lenders getting returns on investments. They are simply wanting to experience the American dream of home ownership. So what can we do to help these communities, these new taxpayers, to be able to experience the American dream of home ownership? Two ideas come to mind: expanding rent-to-own options and contract selling. These ideas will not only make our lending options more accessible and equitable, but they will lead us to engage and retain talented individuals and families in our state. I believe the American dream will remain well, strong, and alive as long as we work hard to preserve it for others, to extend it for others. Thank you so much, and may God bless our state, and we can do this as a community. I can attest to this as an immigrant coming from Sudan, with $75 in my pocket, a high school diploma, and a dream for a better future. Now I'm a husband, a father of 2 young, beautiful kids, a homeowner, and I have a meaningful job. and I managed to get a master's degree. This can only happen in America. So may God bless America, and may God bless us all. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Almarty. Our next speaker is Joseph Jones, who is the Executive Director of the Harkin Institute.
Good morning, and thanks to the Business Record and to Emily for making this possible this morning. And Almarty is tough to follow. That was a fantastic description of one of the things that we need to do rolling out of the pandemic. Like many of you, I'm kind of nervous about going back to work in so many ways. As an introvert, it's hard to think about all of the events and all of the people and all of the talking all at once again. And I know that we all will have an adjustment period. And that includes giving each other grace and space to make that new adjustment to whatever our work world looks like coming back into the future. I think it's also important that we acknowledge that the pandemic and the economic recession has had a greater impact on some individuals than others. Not everyone has been affected the same. And thinking about that, I'm thinking about the people with disabilities who lost their jobs at a higher rate than those without disabilities last year, despite having significant problem-solving experience and resilience and similar qualities. That's so important in times like this. We know that according to the Bureau of Labor Statistics, that 17.9% of people with disabilities were employed in 2020, which was down from almost 20% the year before. And currently unemployment is still really high for people with disabilities. We've seen the numbers here in our state recently and how low those numbers are and all the actions that people want to take in order to create a larger workforce pool. But we still have a much higher percentage of people with disabilities who are unemployed. And pre-pandemic, people with disabilities have been asking for many flexible things, work schedules, work environment, and they were denied the ability to work from home in many cases, even for 1 or 2 days a week, because of the, what I'm gonna say is the antiquated belief about shirking. When people work from home, we're not getting their work done. And of course, during the pandemic, it became our norm, and we quickly realized that many people are able to work from home and have access to the things they need, and in a place, in some instances, where they're much more productive than others. And it gives an opportunity for people to work, go to school. It's something with people with disabilities have been arguing for a really long time. And of course, like I mentioned at the top of this, the reduction in social demands for people who struggle sometimes in social situations has also led to an increase in productivity and mental well-being for people. And so as we move into the post-pandemic time period, we've seen what our reliance on remote work has done in opening up opportunities for workers and professionals to include people with disabilities. And it's also has forced people who haven't self-identified as having a disability, or what we might call it as an invisible disability, to have to disclose those disabilities because they might be at a higher risk of getting sick, and they want to make sure that their employer knows that. So I would make sure that in giving grace and space that everyone is prepared for accommodating those requests for people who may not have asked for them in times before, but need them now. And then also consider implementing some sort of basic accommodation requests company-wide. First, including the flexible workplace policies, universal design concepts as you're doing your remodels or redesigning your office to make them COVID safe. Think about universal design as well, things that can be beneficial to all employees in your workforce and make them feel more comfortable and included and heard in your workspace. So I think many of those things are possible and can be available without people having to ask, and it creates a really great environment for your workforce that's returning, and whether or not they're physically there or working from home remotely.
Great, thank you so much, Joseph. Our next speaker up today is Christy Naus, President of the Community Foundation of Greater Des Moines.
All right. Well, thank you to my friends at the Business Record for the opportunity to participate in this Power Breakfast. I was one of the panelists last year at this time as well. And to think about looking forward at that point in time, it was really difficult to do. And now it feels like the shades are coming up and the sun is coming in, and we really can take a moment to look ahead. I've been looking forward to this. I can't look ahead though without first pausing for a second of reflection. In my 30-year career, I have always worked for the nonprofit sector. It's all I've been called to do, and it has fulfilled me and made me very proud. But I have to tell you, the pride and fulfillment I've experienced working in this sector over the last year transcends even the most meaningful moments of my career. Our nonprofit community is truly remarkable. They collaborate, they innovate, they create, they put their clients and our community first time and time again. They find the gaps and they fill them. And never before have we seen that happen as we have throughout the last year. Do you have any idea what our community would have experienced this last year without our nonprofit sector? How many would be hungry or starving? How many would have lost their homes, the American dream that Al Marty spoke of and we all strive for? Or how many would be sick or far worse? How many would be lost without an education and a future, without someone to wrap their virtual arms around them? If we truly seek to propel DSM forward to a better, stronger future, I propose we commit to a paradigm shift related to our for impact sector. That's right, I didn't say nonprofit, I said for impact. Nonprofit status is a tax delineation, not a business model. Of course, our sector is profitable. The profit shows up in revenue, it shows up in food on the table, in kids safe and learning and after school and out of school programs, in summer job programs for our youth, in music, in local parks, in accessible swimming lessons, in job training programs, in refugee resettlement, in beautiful sculptures throughout our community, and in lives saved through access for all to healthcare. Nonprofit work is impact in action. Yet for the most part, we consider our nonprofits as a nice to have, not a need to have industry. They're often overlooked or last in line for things like COVID relief loans, capital investments, and other programs and funding available to our valued for-profit small businesses and large corporations. In reality, our for impact sector is key to the future of our economy and our community. We tend to forget the sector employs 12.5 million people nationally. It's the third largest workforce of any US industry, the third largest. The payrolls of the for impact sector exceed other industries, including the construction industry, the transportation industry, and the finance industry. Iowa's numbers are equally impressive, with almost 11.5% of the private workforce consisting of for impact employees, with annual revenue of $14.7 billion and expenses of $14.2 billion. It's an industry with huge, often unrecognized economic impact. So, as we look ahead with big ideas for our community post-COVID, we simply can't forget the for impact sector and the support it deserves from our community. Philanthropy is wonderful and needed, and our generous donors have stepped up to support the for impact sector time and time again. But it's critical we all embrace the value our for impact sector holds for our future and advocate for its recognition as a core economic and social engine critical to the continued success of our community. I can guarantee our for impact sector will be there to meet the needs, to step up in times of challenge, and lead the way toward a post-COVID thriving community for all. They deserve our support, our volunteerism, our charitable funding, and our advocacy. They have and will continue to truly exemplify what makes our community better together and better forever. Thank you again for the opportunity to offer my perspective.
Great, thank you so much, Christy. Our next speaker today is Chris Kramer, who is the director of the Iowa Department of Cultural Affairs.
Well, good morning. Thank you, Emily, and thank you, Chris, and the Business Record for convening this really important discussion. And so in my role, I'm so grateful to be able to oversee the state's interests in arts and creativity, our culture sector, film and media, history and heritage, humanities, and historic preservation. And currently, the arts and culture sector over the last year has been one of the hardest hit. By the end of 2020, our nonprofit sector alone had more than $50 million in losses. These are all those wonderful organizations that we've grown to value here in Iowa, and really have led the way in attracting young people and people of all ages who want to experience really great quality of life amenities and really world-class amenities. In fact, before the pandemic, in a regular annual year, we're serving about 4 million people in daily participation. There are usually more than 42,000 people employed in the arts and cultural sector in more than 5,000 businesses. And that's why it's really important that we work hard to help them get back on their feet. But another statistic in this last year has really stayed with me, and maybe it's because I'm the mom of 3 people in this generation. But the Pew Research Center said that more than 52% of young people 18 to 29 were living at home with their parents last July. Now, that's probably improved somewhat since then, but we can look at that both as a challenge and also as an opportunity. And certainly Iowa and Central Iowa has always done a really great job of identifying where we have the opportunity for growth. And one of those opportunities is really engaging the creative sector, investing in arts and culture and quality of life. In fact, there are many things that we can do to get moving on that. We heard through the governor's economic recovery that creative placemaking is one way to help drive and rebound our economy. Also through the Governor's STEM Council, there's a new committee called the Creativity and Innovation Task Force, which I'm co-chairing with an amazing entrepreneurial young business leader, Jan Verhoeven. And what we're trying to do is use the arts as an on-ramp to get more people into the STEM pipeline so that we can continue to prepare our workforce for all of the jobs that we have here in Iowa. But there's another way that we can all take part in that. And as leaders for each of your various industries, we hear a lot right now that we are short on workers. And one of the best things you can do is paint the picture of what Des Moines has the potential to be, and Central Iowa and all over Iowa. Paint the picture in your job postings, because those young people are not only looking for jobs, but they're also looking for places to live. And people of that generation are choosing place 2/3 of the time before they even look for a job. They're looking for a place to live. And so it's really important that we paint the picture of what our community is like. We have a very diverse community. It's a beautiful community. We've invested in world-class attractions, everyday arts. And as Christy's mentioned, we've also recognized that arts and culture are a need to have in our community. People want live music, and young people also like brunch. People of my generation do too. But as leaders, it's important that as you're writing up those job descriptions for LinkedIn or for Indeed, that you also paint the picture of what our community is like. And that's one of the best ways that we can get our arts and culture sector back on their feet. Another way is just by participating. So many of our live music venues, performing arts, museums have really been operating at such a minimal amount. And it's really hard for those people because it's like sitting on their hands. They're used to trying to get lots and lots of people to all of their events. And so it's been a really challenging time for them, but they're ready to go. And so in June, when we come back, and we'll all be at one of the greatest art festivals in the country at the Des Moines Arts Festival. and we're going to be able to re-engage with people and be grateful for what's going on. But it's really important that we participate again, that we reach out, buy a membership to one of your organizations that you typically support, and maybe an extra one. Advocate within your sector to make sure that people are once again participating, going to live music. Many of the live music venues are going to start opening up outdoors and then eventually take people back indoors. Performing arts, museums. This is a time for us really to support these organizations, buy tickets, invite people to go along with you. But you can also advocate for the new initiatives. And this community is so great at driving new initiatives. Even during the pandemic, we've seen a number of things advance, like the Central Iowa Water Trails Project. But for those of you who have been around for a little while, we know that in the 2000s, we invested a lot in our downtown area, from the sculpture garden to the Riverwalk and Grays Lake. People love these amenities. Also the Science Center and Art Center and Des Moines Performing Arts and so many other of our small nonprofits and live music venues. So this is really a time where we have an opportunity to attract young people to our community by painting the best picture we can for a lot of what's going on. And I think so far the biggest reveal is that Joseph Jones has admitted he's an introvert, because I don't think that, but he's doing fantastic work in our community. And above all, I'm so grateful to collaborate with all of you, because it's really through collaboration that this community is able to advance so many things. And right now we have an opportunity not only to advance creativity and innovation, to support our future workforce, but also diversity, equity, and inclusion opportunities, and continue to grow our wonderful state and our wonderful community. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Chris. Our next speaker is Megan Milligan, President and CEO of the Iowa Center for Economic Success.
Thank you, Emily, and thanks to the Business Record for giving me this opportunity to represent small business. It's been a heck of a year for all of us, small business especially, as we serve on the front lines of economic development. So a lot of people today have talked about employment and the importance of it, but really it is vital to the economic growth and stability of our community. Small businesses in Iowa employ 50% of our workforce. This past year during the pandemic, the Iowa Center's small business clients alone created 98 new jobs. Those jobs, that ability to bring home a paycheck, support yourself, your family, and your community, is what is going to move our economy forward. And these small businesses are what are going to make the big businesses able to attract employees. Because as a few of you said, if we don't have a vital, fun, thriving community with great brunch, great places to get your hair done, great people to clean our homes and take care of our kids after school, we're not going to get people to want to move here from the coasts. So I have 3 quick ways that I think all of you can help participate in the economic growth of our community through small business support. It's the 3 S's. It doesn't really flow off the tongue, but it all, aligns with small business. So start them. Start that small business. I know you want to. I know in the past year, as you've been thinking about how hard it is to pivot and work from home and found new strengths and daydreamed about new ideas, I know you all have a little seed inside your head of a small business that you think is already lacking in our community or fits your skill set. So jump in, do it. We're here to support you, and a lot of other people are as well. It's important. It's an important and not so easy way to become an employer and a job creator. The next one is shop at them. When small business is successful, we're all successful. So go to those small businesses. I used to say that I shopped at Target so much, I probably employed at least one person. I've taken that money and I've shifted it over to the small businesses. And I work really hard to try to spend enough of my paycheck to make sure that a couple other people have jobs at all those small businesses in the Valley Junction and up and down the East Village. Gift cards. Gift cards that are more than 6 months old is old revenue. I know that at the beginning of the pandemic, we all bought gift cards to try to support those shops and those services that we couldn't go to, and that was awesome. And it was valuable, and it helped save a lot of them by bringing some revenue in the door. If those gift cards are more than 6 months old and are sitting in your drawer, they're not helping that small business anymore. So clip them. If you have the ability to still go to that restaurant and use the cash in your pocket, I encourage you to do so. Because again, that revenue has already been spent on those those employees. And using that gift card now is essentially a free meal or a free haircut. So continue to visit those businesses, talk about it, and keep going back. Finally, spread the word. Talk about your favorite restaurants and shops. During the beginning of the pandemic, instead of posting pictures of my adorable kids, I posted a picture on Instagram of every restaurant I shopped at, every takeout that I brought home, etc. So spread the word. Finally, Emily, you already brought up that that while this is an awesome community for most of us, the pandemic this past year has also really magnified the disparities. During the PPP process, we saw that people of color were not accessing PPP or emergency grants to nearly the same rate as their white counterparts. Our community can do better. So as we take those 3 S's, we also need to figure out how we actually empower the socioeconomic and racial divide that our community still has so strongly. So going back to owning a small business, if you are able to employ people, employ a truly diverse team. Don't hire people that remind you of yourself when you were young, or your son or your dad. Hire people that have something you're missing. Aggressively and assertively go out there and hire people that aren't like you. I promise you will make more money if you do that. When you shop at small businesses, don't just go to Lucky Lotus once and post it on your Instagram and say that Asian lives matter. Because while that movement is critical, if you don't truly participate in it and you don't truly move it forward, it's not going to change anything. Going to a restaurant once and posting that you stopped there and that you supported them and they couldn't survive without your support isn't going to change the economy for everybody. It's not going to change until you can't live without that restaurant. So start shaping your life to appreciate those small businesses and those small business owners that are feeding you, cleaning your house, coloring your hair, and supporting you. And then brag about it, brag the heck out of it. And finally, spread the word about those unique and diverse businesses and services that our community has to offer. It helps us put Des Moines on the national map. Thank you.
Thank you, Megan. And speaking of small business owners, our next speaker is Blanca Plasencia, the owner of El Fogan.
Hi, good morning. Thank you very much for opening this space for us. Thank you, Emily, and the Business Record. I'm not a professional. I am here more to learn than to teach, but I can totally relate to what Almari said about the American dream. You know, the American dream also has 2 sides, and I've been through both sides of the American dream. One side is a trap where you are always working, and never have any time, any money to survive, to feed your kids, to feed your family. And then the other side is when you get educated, when you learn and have access to resources. That takes me to what Christy from the Community Foundation said. The nonprofit organizations help people like me, young Latina. I am a graduated from class 2017 of Latina Leadership Initiative. And it's what has helped me to get out of my comfort zone and being here today to talk for my Latino community that we lack a lot of representation. So I really want to thank you for the opportunities and for all the help that we've received. But my idea is more for very small business owners like me. We have a restaurant, and in the Latino community, we have very small businesses. So my idea is just for the small business owners to reach out to the community, use marketing, be very creative. People are waiting for new services, for new experiences. People have been at home for a long time, so they're looking for something new, for something different. So let's try to be very creative, to think, how can we offer a different experience, a different, I don't know, a different meal, something different, and make people come to your business. I know that the government, the Congress, the Small Business Administration, in my case, the Iowa Restaurant Association, have been working very much to provide us with help and with funds. So let's also try to apply for these funds that are available to us And if they're not available to us for some reason, that is the thing. Why are we not able to have access to these funds? What is it in my business that I have control over that I need to change so I can have access to more opportunities? How can I better structure my business? How can I prepare myself, organize myself so I can have access to all the reports, all the paperwork that they are requiring for these helps? How can I better organize? How can I better learn? We have to learn that we have to invest in ourselves so we can grow and be better and help others. I am here because I really care for my Latino community, and I know all the, sorry, I get emotional, I'm sorry. But I know all the need that is out there. Many people need many things. They don't know. We start with a great spirit and by working. That's the way we start. We save money and we go out and start a business without any help, without any structure, without any resources. A lot of people don't even speak the language. And like me, that I have a very strong accent and I'm still learning, but we have the spirit and like the energy to start a business. But sometimes we get stuck. We don't have support. So by opening these spaces and by having people like me talking about it and make a bridge so we can connect to the people, then we are gonna grow. So we need to keep these conversations going. We need to invite more people on this conversation and let our community know that it is possible, that there is help, there is support, there is a lot of things that we can have access that we just don't know. So we need to reach out to the real people, the real small business owners. And how do we do that if there is a barrier with the language, with the resources? So I am very thankful for being here, for opening this space, and I really wish I can continue to be that voice and to help my community, or to invite my community to all these resources and all this information that is very vital for us. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Blanca. Our next speaker up is Tiffany Tauschek, the Chief Operations Officer for the Greater Des Moines Partnership.
Good morning. Thanks, Emily, and thanks to the Business Record for hosting this conversation. And I also just have to lift up all of these panelists and say thank you. Thanks for your candor and your passion and commitment. It certainly is coming through, so thank you. This past year, a Brookings report issued a question within a headline that really caught my attention. And the headline read, "Big city downtowns are booming, but can their momentum outlast the coronavirus?" The report said that downtowns everywhere, but particularly in the Midwest, began seeing a revival in recent years. It pointed out that while only a third of downtowns in the Midwest saw population increases between 1980 and 2000, 3/4 did in the recent 2 decades. That includes Des Moines. Specifically, Greater Des Moines is among the fastest growing cities in the Midwest. And a strong region needs a strong downtown core, which is why downtown development and events have been among the areas of work at the Greater Des Moines Partnership for many years. Our downtown had strong momentum before the pandemic. Those years of planning 5, 10, 15 years ago either have or will come to fruition. We have the new Lord's Skate Park. It's the largest skate park in the country, 3rd largest in the world. It just opened last week with dozens of skaters eagerly waiting on site with their boards for the park to open Saturday morning at 6 a.m. And then next week, we have the only Olympic qualifying skateboarding event in the US right here in downtown Des Moines. There's been significant momentum on the Central Iowa Water Trails project. Progress is being made on the transformation of the decades-old eyesore and contaminated Dyko site into a proposed soccer stadium and global plaza. The industrial transload facility is opening, and a commitment remains to expand the DSM International Airport Terminal. And there's so much more. Downtown plays a critical role in economic development, is core to our region. It's a place where people work and live, with thousands of workers preparing to come back to work in their downtown offices over the next few months. It's a place where people from all over visit each year for the state tournaments, conferences, other events. And as we move into this post-pandemic world in Greater Des Moines, it really is time to reimagine our future and the future of downtown. One of my favorite quotes is from Theodore Roosevelt, and he talks about the difference between sitting on the sidelines looking in or choosing to be in the arena, striving to do the deeds with enthusiasm and devotion. This is our time to be in the arena, doing all that we can to make our downtown better and stronger. As some of you may know, in January, I took on the role of COO at the partnership, and this includes leading our downtown development. Recently, I conducted a listening tour and spoke to more than 80 leaders about the current state of our downtown and what their thoughts are for the future of downtown. And overwhelmingly, I heard one thing again and again: optimism. There is optimism for the future of downtown, and there's a commitment to building the future of our downtown in an inclusive way. If there was ever a time to pause and rethink, reshape, reset, this is it. This is our moment to get off the sidelines and into the arena and to be a part of the change to further shape and build our downtown's future. As noted by others, we've learned that many people can work from anywhere, including home. And we want to ensure that downtown DSM is a place where people want to work and a place where people want to live. Chris mentioned some of the incredible amenities that we already have downtown and the events and offerings that are distinctly downtown DSM. Yet the pandemic forced us to pause and to think about how to activate our downtown in new and different ways. Some examples of this include some new pop-up activations that we did recently. I call these surprise and delight moments. They're really designed to draw more people downtown. And we hid ornaments created by local artists throughout downtown during the holiday season. We helped place glowing hot air balloons around downtown for people to discover. We created some of these moments that the kids call FOMO. It's a fear of missing out. And social media was filled with comments like, "I missed it. When will those balloons be back?" Or "When should I be back in downtown for that next experience?" The answer is now. We recently hired a downtown activation manager to create more of those FOMO moments. And it's not just us, there are many organizations and people that are creating events and experiences that are unique and distinct to downtown DSM. As Megan mentioned, just step into any of the coffee shops, the restaurants, the retailers, music venues, theaters, comedy venues. Each place has its own vibe, and each adds to the uniqueness of what is downtown DSM. It's placemaking. It's creating a sense of place and belonging for people. It's creating spaces where people want to live, work, and be in, and it is no longer just a thing that's nice to have. It's now a need for a vibrant and growing downtown and region. The partnership is helping lead a process with the City of Des Moines, Polk County, Operation Downtown, and others to develop a downtown vision plan and action plan to help position downtown DSM for short-term economic recovery and long-term economic vitality and vibrancy. This plan will be designed to be a community-focused plan, reaching into the surrounding neighborhoods. It will be a collaborative, inclusive process designed to build upon the momentum that we had before the pandemic. And it will set us up for future success and serve as the downtown plan for the next iteration of the Capitol Crossroads Vision Plan. A healthy downtown is important to our collective future and success. So I ask you, where do you see yourself in this process of shaping the future? As you reflect on what has been shared already today by these amazing panelists, I hope you'll consider asking yourself, what can you do to contribute? We all bring different perspectives, backgrounds, and experiences to the community, and we need those diverse ideas and opinions to build an even better and an even stronger downtown. I hope you feel the optimism and the hope and the hunger to step away from the sidelines and get into the arena to make things happen in downtown DSM and throughout the entire region, because together our momentum can not only outlast the pandemic, but we will emerge even better than before. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you, Tiffany. Our next speaker up is Brian Waller, the president of the Technology Association of Iowa.
Well, thank you, Emily, and thank you to the panelists to be part of this. I've learned a lot, and I'm so proud to be part of this community. And I have the daunting task to follow Tiffany Tauschek. So thank you for setting me up after Tiffany. I represent the Technology Association of Iowa, and we are the voice of Iowa's technology industry, and we represent information technology professionals in the state of Iowa. And we believe every company and organization is a technology company. Two takeaways that I would like you to take away from this is, number one, look to the cloud, and number two, invest in information technology professionals. As business begins to navigate the post-pandemic recovery, it's clear that all companies must invest in technology infrastructure and technology workforce. Last year highlighted the importance of information technology companies as they race to secure business operations while enabling digital services for their customers. In doing so, companies accelerated their adoption of digital offerings designed to meet and engage their customers virtually by several years. So I tell you to look to the cloud. Everybody talks about the cloud. Well, let me say there's nothing really magical about the cloud. At the end of the day, it's servers, it's hardware sitting somewhere, but it is the best way to grow your business and secure your data. To enable new technologies, businesses must invest in cloud infrastructure to evaluate legacy architectures within their organization. The CIO of Accenture said recently, it is mandatory to be on the cloud to capitalize on innovation. Roughly 95% of all of Accenture's business is on the cloud infrastructure. So the technology workforce is needed to accelerate that. Look, information technology professionals around the state of Iowa are more important now than ever. Look at how you utilized getting groceries. Hy-Vee is absolutely a technology company, and Hy-Vee is investing in information technology professionals like no other. Over the next 2 years, we anticipate an increased focus on digital transformation, with companies reimagining their day-to-day operations in the digital form. In doing so, C-level IT leadership will be growing in their importance in their business and driving businesses. CIOs and technology folks used to be on the sidelines of the business. Now they're in the cockpit and driving companies and their future. So the takeaway here for you is look at your companies and organizations as a technology company. Look at your employees as information technology professionals. And then when you look about growing your business innovation, look to the cloud to secure your data, grow, and innovate. And again, all Iowa companies are technology companies, and I look forward to seeing all of you in person in the future, and I appreciate the opportunity to speak with you today.
Great. Thank you, Brian. Our last speaker is Tim Yaggy, the president and CEO of Pella Corporation.
Thanks, Emily, and thanks to the Business Record. And wow, great job by all of my counterparts this morning. You're all tough acts to follow. I have a similar theme this morning, but let me start with population growth in Iowa. We're fortunate, Pella Corporation, to be growing as fast as we've ever grown in our 96-year history. And our biggest challenge is to fill the jobs that we're creating. And I think that's true for many of us. We have to have people to fill jobs, talented people to fill jobs. And in order to do that, we have to grow our population. The population of Iowa has really trailed the national average for a number of years. And we're going to have to accelerate that population growth to fill jobs, to grow our businesses, to grow our state, to make it more healthy. Now, in order to do that, we always tout, and I know others in the state tout housing as an amenity, a great benefit of Iowa. Our housing tends to be more affordable. The problem is that right now we don't have enough housing, and we really need to put in place incentives and create opportunities to build more homes so that we can recruit people and that they have an affordable place to live. As our first speaker, Marty, said, homeownership is still the American dream. And while we are affordable and will continue to be, we have to build more options. We have to create more supply. Pella Corporation has actually taken upon itself to be a developer of new homes. We actually have a 100 home development going on the edge of Pella. And we're trying to keep the pricing in the 200s range to try to make it as accessible as we can. really to continue to attract people and make sure that they have a great place to live. A couple of things that I think we can do to further incentivize housing development and affordability. One is to really take a look at local requirements, zoning requirements, restrictions, local restrictions, which can dramatically increase the cost of a home. One recent study that I saw said that almost 25% of the cost of a new home is driven by regulations. Regulations are important, but in some cases, the cost benefit isn't there, and we need to make sure that they're smart and affordable. And again, these regulations are mostly at the local level. So let's make sure that we have smart regulations, but we're not excessively driving the cost of a new home and making these homes out of reach of the average family, or even especially seniors and low-income families. The other thing we strongly support is incentives to create more homes. So Governor Reynolds is behind a couple of programs, the Workforce Housing Tax Credit Program, which incentivizes builders and developers to redevelop empty lots, abandoned lots, dilapidated properties, and we think that's critical. And then the State Housing Trust Fund, another way to incentivize developers and builders to go after and supply more homes. It would be great to have, excuse me, housing tax credits for eligible families that are trying to get into the home ownership market. But if we just incentivize the demand side and not the supply side, we're just going to have inflation of home prices. And so we have to do both. We have to make sure that we are incentivizing the construction of new homes, great places to live. And I think if we can do that, we have a great selling point to bring more people into Iowa, to offer great homes in safe neighborhoods and to raise wonderful families. So that's our request. I think it's really important to the state of Iowa that we grow our population, increase the number of homes available. And with that, thank you for your time this morning.
Great. Thank you so much, Tim. Thanks to all of our speakers. Great ideas shared this morning. We'll wrap up with some questions here. I'm going to ask a few individual ones, and then we'll do some questions directed at the group here. But Joseph, my first one is for you, kicking it back to the start of our lineup there. You're obviously working in the space with inclusion for folks with disabilities. And I'm just curious, you know, a huge part of any DEI effort is really awareness. It's knowing more about communities and identities that aren't our own. So I'm just curious what advice you have for business leaders as they try to learn more about folks that are different from them.
Sure. And I appreciate that. I think one of the things that we have learned from business leaders around the world is that they have an interest in hiring people with disabilities and having a diverse staff to include people with disabilities, but they don't know where to start in some instances. And I think a lot of it has to do with reaching out and becoming connected with state vocational rehabilitation and the nonprofit, or shall I say, impact sector organizations that work with individuals with disabilities, and to start developing those relationships. I think that there are a lot of other conferences and other things that provide an opportunity for those relationships to begin. And I'll even say, I wasn't going to plug, but I'll even say that we're going to do a summit this summer that's focused solely on employers in Iowa hiring people with disabilities. This is something we've done on an international scale over the last 5 years, but we thought that as a way to honor the 30th anniversary of the Americans with Disabilities Act, we would do something solely focused on our home state and working with employers and connecting them with the tools and resources to better diversify their teams by adding people with disabilities.
Thanks, Joseph. Brian, my next question is for you, and it's related to also on a learning scale. And I'm just curious, technology is always changing. There's always something new for businesses to know. So I'm also curious, how would you encourage people to continue learning about the technology trends that they should know for their businesses?
Well, computer science education is accessible to everyone, not only through regular curriculum through school, but it's something you can learn online and you can do through a virtual setting. And so I think computer science is a first step, but I love what Chris Kramer was talking about. The creatives in our community also make great technology folks. And to my point, every Iowa employee is an information technology professional. And if I could go back to, I think it was Tim that talked about, having the focus being on population growth. And I know the partnership works on this a lot. And I would just mention the first step, I think, of population growth is making people feel welcome in our state. And I have seen a trend in our state house this session to make some people in our state feel unwelcome. And I think that's one thing that we can do better in our community. And I know it's a little bit off the tangent of information technology professionals, but population growth is increasingly important to the technology industry as we have more jobs open than we can fill them. And we need global citizens to come in and do that. So I would make that plug as well.
Great. Blanca, you talked a lot about some advice for other small business owners, and I was curious, could you talk about what's one way in the past year as a small business owner yourself that you've really felt support from the community that you would encourage for other members to do as they go to small businesses?
Yes, 2020 was very, very difficult for us restaurants, but a lot, what really mattered is our community. A lot of the customers came and said, thank you for being here. Thank you for staying open. And thank you for employing all these families. And they just leave the employee. I mean, if someone was taking the order, if normally they leave $5 tips, they will give them $15, $20 tips. And that was very helpful for our employees, for our families, because we know the service isn't there anymore because they're not sitting at the restaurant, but they were tipping better and the community cared for us. So we felt very welcome and very grateful for people that came to support us and to leave bigger tips to like the servers. I mean, that was a very big help for them because the servers live on tips. So they do get paid, but it's, very minimum. And when they get the tips, it helps them. It helps their kids, their families. It helps everyone. So I feel really grateful for our wonderful community that come to the restaurant and are just there for supporting. People came for a to-go order. People came for a gift card, and they all leave a nice tip. And we appreciate that. That helped us a lot.
Thank you. Those are great ideas. Tiffany, one of the things that you talked about and that I know is really core to your work at the partnership is collaboration. And I'm just wondering if you have tips for people on how to really go about collaboration in the best way and what advice you have in that area.
You bet. So I think collaboration has been a little trickier via the Zoom world, in my opinion. And that's something that we've heard from a lot of the leaders that I spoke to during the downtown listening tour, is that the remote work has created a collaboration challenge. And also that unintentional consequence of out of sight, out of mind for those that maybe aren't able to participate in conversations or be just down the hall. So creative collisions is a strategy that we really believe in, and creative collisions happen when people can run into each other, hopefully safely at events like the Downtown Farmers Market or the Arts Festival or the World Food Festival, Book Festival, and even meetings, or going to the coffee shop or going to a restaurant. You're going to run into people. And I would say, don't hesitate to reach out to somebody also that you don't know and introduce yourself. That's part of sort of widening the circle that I think we really need to work on as a community, because just because I have my typical network and folks that I would go to and lean on doesn't mean I won't still go to them for collaboration ideas or partnering ideas. But beyond that, we really need to stretch beyond our typical networks. And part of that, I think it just comes from those creative collisions and also intentional outreach, reading stories in the business record and pinging somebody on LinkedIn or sending them an email saying, hey, can we grab a cup of coffee or have a quick conversation. And that's something that our community's done a good job at, which is being accessible to and open to conversations. It's pretty rare to find a leader that isn't willing to say yes to a conversation and find ways to collaborate.
Christy, I've got a question for you, and wondering if you could help us get a little perspective on this, which is, last year, I think a lot of the commitments and things from a nonprofit standpoint, and Chris, you might be able to chime in here too from an arts perspective. A lot of the commitments were in place going into the year. And of course, folks were fundraising throughout the course of last year for their next years going forward. And so I'm just kind of curious if you have some perspective on what that outlook kind of looks like on the whole. And I'm sure that might be a little bit more deep than being able to respond in 1 minute or so. But I'm curious if you could provide kind of what that outlook looks like going forward.
Chris, and I'll leave time for you as well. Love your perspective. I would just say, we saw more giving than we ever had through the Community Foundation, at least. And nationally, if you look at what the numbers look like as well, I mean, up to 40% more in many cases out of donor advised funds or into our For Impact organizations. So I also feel I feel a lot of optimism about that. I feel like our donor community really did reach out to say, how do we get connected? They used our givedsm.org site like never before, trying to, consciously and intentionally look for organizations that meet their passion areas, or specifically even that were related to COVID-19 at the time and service in our community. So I'm hugely optimistic, and I'm really seeing also, the capital campaigns are kicking up again, some paused for a while, and we're seeing, announcements of some major gifts coming in. And I think our donor community is going to continue to embrace. And as businesses come back as well, I think we'll continue to see that. And I think we really do need to challenge our business community to continue to stay local in focus. If they're headquartered here, or, I recognize that they serve a broader community, but this community where their employees are living is really important. So that's something else to continue to keep top of mind.
I have to think that the way that people were able to participate and the way it was at the forefront for younger folks to be giving has to have some lasting effects as well as we think about going forward. And I imagine that's something you all at the Community Foundation are looking to try to make sure that becomes a habit going forward, not just because of the trauma of the past year. So
absolutely. Thank you.
Chris, just from your perspective on from the arts, obviously they couldn't, a lot of the venues couldn't have people, tickets, all the things that help fund those organizations. So curious how you're seeing the health of those organizations as we kind of emerge here and they start putting things back on the schedule.
Well, thank you for that question. And we saw this after 9/11, after the 2008 financial crisis, that, immediately a lot of the giving goes to the industries that tend to focus on the greatest needs. So human service, feeding people, and it should be that way. But then, as a lot of arts and cultural organizations continue to try and get on their feet, they too, can work those relationships that they've had for many years, whether it's members continuing to support them. Maybe it was a venue that had ticketed items and people, rather than getting a refund, they just donated the ticket revenue to try and help offset some of the losses. Some of our best performers in museums, gardens, zoos, that kind of a category, they're anywhere from about 20 to 50%, maybe 50 is the best of their earned revenue. And so there were a lot of layoffs in our industry. And so as you see now, a lot of rescheduled events, maybe if it's live performing music and other things that are trying to get back going, I think we're going to see a really high uptick all of a sudden. And one of the challenges with that is that a lot of these places had layoffs, and so they don't have the staff to get back at it. So it's just connecting people that need jobs with those that are hiring, and trying to help all of our nonprofits and music venues and so forth get on their feet rather quickly. But hopefully charitable giving, it goes through its cycles, but in the end, we hope that through a lot of relationships, people are able to sustain that.
Awesome. Megan, a question for you, and this really could go to so many of you, but I'm targeting it at you, Megan. But everyone here is really a leader in a lot of ways, and I'm just wondering, what are some ways, and especially with this being mental health awareness month, what are some ways that you're taking care of yourself, that you're continuing to learn and prioritize your own well-being?
Well, for me, I think, I didn't feel like a full adult until I had a team that my mission and my work was employing and empowering other people to do the same. So, for me, how I can go to sleep at night and feel good about the day is knowing that there's 13 of us working our tails off to support small business. And really, of course, I, eat healthy and spend some time doing mindfulness and all of those other really awesome things. But I've got 3 little kids and a team of 13 people. So it's go, go, go. And that's just the phase of my life. And I'm grateful for it. And I think that the way that I got through COVID was knowing that I had these people to protect and empower and help build up. So I know there's a trend to take care of yourself, but honestly, I don't think there's any better way to take care of yourself than taking care of others. And so, that's my quick secret that's not going to help anybody probably with peace and and all of that.
Awesome. Well, I'm going to give you all just 1 second to think about a final question here. And I really want everyone to kind of summarize it in 1 sentence. What's one action that you feel that people can take to help the community move forward? And so I'm going to give you all a little bit to think about that and kick it over to Chris to share a little bit about some of the upcoming things at the Business Record.
Right. Thanks, Emily. We just have a couple things want to make sure that you're aware about that we have coming up, some opportunities to continue connecting into the community. On May 21st, we have our next Fearless Friday event. We invite you to join it's our Fearless Friday series. The series is focused on women and gender topics, and at these interactive events, you've got an opportunity to both learn from some experts and connect in breakout sessions on a Friday morning. Great way to start your Friday, get a little bit of that energy going, and learn along the way as well. Next Friday, we're going to be focusing on a variety of topics that fall under the umbrella of career pathways and advancement. You can learn more about Fearless and sign up for the free weekly email and register for the event series at fearlessbr.com/fearlessfridays. Also, on June 10th, we've got our first event in a new event series that we're calling Project 515, which is going to be focusing on real estate and development. These are going to be virtual events, help providing deep dives into some different subsections of the real estate and development industry. We're going to be looking at office, retail, and housing. This year, we'll have 3 events. Our first one's going to dive into retail. So I'm sure Tiffany, I believe we'll be talking a little bit about downtown. I'm sure that's something you've heard a lot about and is, of course, under a lot of strain in some ways when it comes to downtown and has always been a big question for downtown. So we'll be talking about retail, both the challenges related to downtown, but of course, the way that industry has been completely shifted in a lot of ways as well. Registration for that's going to open up next Friday, and we invite you to join us. You can register at businessrecord.com/events. If you've got any feedback today that you want to provide, please send it our way. We're always working to try to be better, making sure that our programming is really helping you and your business. Feel free to reach out my way directly. And of course, if something today spurred a story idea, something that one of the speakers talked about, something that you wish that we would be writing about, or you have an idea that you'd like to share, please reach out Emily Barsky's way. She's doing a fantastic job, and her and our reporting team are ready to help share those ideas and make sure that we're helping make those connections between the business community and, of course, the folks that are working so hard to make sure this community is a great place to live and work. This event is going to be available online. It'll be in our Business Record Daily e-newsletter later today. It's also on our Facebook page. So if there's something today you want to share, feel free to share it with everybody. That's the point of this, is to help get the word out, finding ways that people can connect in and help continue to make a difference. Again, I want to thank everybody here for attending as well. We're going to give all the speakers an opportunity to give that final thought here in just a minute. We're making this, the Power Breakfast series, free and online, of course, throughout the course of the pandemic as it relates to COVID, to help make sure that we're helping the business community. We too are a locally owned business and are working really hard to navigate through this past year and you can help ensure that we can continue bringing programming like this and our reporting throughout the course of this year and of course on into the future. Sponsorships and advertising like our sponsors today help make these things possible and help us be able to do this. And time again, it's been shown that the folks that are investing throughout the course of downturns are the ones that are going to emerge stronger. So if you have a desire to get the word about your company out in front of the Business Records audience, please reach out to Sarah Brown. She's our Director of Advertising, and she'd be happy to connect in with you. And if, of course, you're not already a member of the Business Record, we'd encourage you to sign up. Or perhaps if you are a Business Record member already, encourage one of your colleagues to become one at businessrecord.com/membership. You'll get the weekly Business Record and, of course, an opportunity to stay nicely plugged into the community. All right, Emily, we're going to turn it over to you for that final question to wrap things up today.
Awesome. Well, let's just go around the horn here and share those final thoughts. So Joseph, you're up first.
Well, thanks again, Emily, for this opportunity. And as we move forward, I would challenge all of us to tweak our cultures in a way that makes us better and more inclusive in our work, even if it makes folks a little bit uncomfortable.
Great. Thank you very much. Christy?
I would say intentionally engage diverse voices and commit to making this a welcoming community for all.
Awesome. I like it that you're all being so succinct and putting it down to a sentence. That's the editor in me coming out. So thank you. All right, Chris.
I would say let's showcase our community and our state, recognizing how culturally vibrant it is in so many ways. Both our the world-class amenities that we have in our major cities, but also the authentic experiences that we have in our rural communities. And let's celebrate that, showcase it to attract people to our state.
Great, thank you. Megan?
When you go to a small business, don't just go once, go back. Keep going back and become a regular.
Blanca?
Well, get out of your comfort zone, get organized, help each other, and get to know other people, new people, and be creative.
Thank you. Tiffany?
Get in the arena and invite others to join you.
Brian?
Lean into grace and civility. And that's not just when we come together and see each other at an event. That's on Interstate 235. That's having a little grace and patience of a cashier who's taking a little longer. So grace and civility, let's be nicer to one another.
I think I'll take the 235 one personally, and I'll take that to heart, Brian. Thank you. Tim?
Yeah, thanks. Thanks again for the opportunity. I would say, again, I talked about population. One of the benefits of population growth, immigration into Iowa, is that we get a more diverse population. The population that enters Iowa tends to be much more diverse. And so it is critical that we are a welcoming state, whether it's LGBTQ, whether it's different races or non-English speakers. We have to be a welcoming state in order to attract and retain the people we need to fill our great jobs.
Great, thank you so much. And thank you all of you again for being here today.
Thank you all again to each of our sponsors, Bankers Trust, BKD, and ACS for helping make today possible. And lastly, they can't hear the round of applause, but in the chat, if you could, give everybody here today a big thank you for spending their time and energy. These folks, along with a number of you that are, of course, on the call, have spent their time and energy trying to help make sure that this community is emerging in as strong of a position as we are as we move forward. I know I'm really grateful for each of you on the call here today that are working on this community. And I know I'm also grateful for everybody that joined today so that you could learn something to help bring back into your organizations and back into the community as well. So thank you all for being here today. Again, my name is Chris Konetsky. I'm the publisher and executive editor of the Business Record. If I can ever be of any help, please feel free to reach out. We're always working to help you and your business and to help this community be stronger. So thank you again for being here today and have a great rest of your day. Panelists, if you want to stick around for a second, we'll just wait a minute and we'll just wrap up again.
Since folks found out he lives downtown, he lives downtown. since his folks found out.